financial world. A layperson like me could hear the buzz for years on end that there's going to be a problem, there's going to be a collapse. But Harvard couldn't. They froze their salaries for more than a year. What is the message here? Why are we running after this? Then your gross enrollment ratio will not go up because you create some of these structures over there and everyone wants to go there. Think about that. And let's diffuse the formal structures a little bit. All institutions, and in India we love doing this, are designed somehow to exclude. All of them. You have to have an entrance test. You have to be above this cutoff. We're doing that all the time. Nobody thinks, is there some way by which we could include? We're forever precluding or excluding. Oh no, we can't do this. Of course, there has to be a teacher-student ratio, but then look at the role of the teacher. And what is a teacher? Has anyone asked that? I'm telling you, these are fundamental questions. If you start looking at all that, many answers will start coming out. So much happens in the real world. In my university, one of my colleagues here mentioned physics, chemistry, maths. Why do they teach that? Why do they teach that? Yeah, why do they teach that? I wondered. All my undergraduates have to go through some of these programs. And then you know what? We are running some non-degree programs in addition to this to then retrain these graduates so that they could be employed in the real world. I don't know if you know this. We're running them to full capacity in addition to the degree that we offer, which is meaningless. All our energies, efforts are going into offering them degrees which are meaningless. They're all studying physics, chemistry, maths, whereas they want to really work in a bank. I don't know where the answers are, but these are the problems. You need to think about that. We need to start relooking and we need to be out of the box. Knowledge comes from every source. Somewhere, let us see where knowledge gets embedded in society. If a cycle rickshaw puller comes across with a technological innovation that makes the rickshaw more efficient, is there anything in this university which will allow that to seep into its systems and give credit to this fellow towards some degree that we could offer? No, we don't. There's nothing because we want to exclude. He's far more innovative than most of my faculty. But I will not give him credit because he didn't sit for the entrance exam. You start doing that, your gross enrollment ratio will go up because he'll be certified in some way. And let's not give ourselves too much of this, hype on being able to certify someone. As I said, those 12 Oxford dons gave a great certificate to Oxford when they certified Mahatma Gandhi is a bit of a lunatic. So think about that. And as I said, knowledge will come. As you grow older, you get a little wiser. I'm still not a wise man, but I'm wiser today than what I was yesterday. And I used to look down upon the actuaries. I thought this is some lower level computational stuff. Till I learned that much before the engineers, the actuaries in England on their own, using their own language, their own methodology, had worked out all the essentials of signal processing for their own needs, creating pure knowledge from those so-called base applications, much before the engineers. So has anyone recognized that? Are there systems in place? Somebody goes through that whole system and does something useful. Can that be recognized? No one thinks about that. Also, we look down upon this so-called learning through an open system. Whatever Newton really did was not when he was at Cambridge. It's only when he went back home and Cambridge was afflicted with the plague. He went back and he did things there in this open system. Darwin said that I learned more in the pubs of Cambridge than I did in the classrooms. What did Mark Twain say? That I did not allow my schooling to interfere with my education. Let's recognize that, Let's not think too much of ourselves and let society somehow move towards granting some sort of recognition for this. You can't be too formal. But there is so much in the open system and there is a crying need for that. The enrollment at the Indira Gandhi Open University is more than the enrollment of all of the Indian universities put together. There's a crying need. There's a voice out there telling us, do something. But we look down upon it. No one taught Ramanujan. All the great insights will only come when you make the effort. Let no teacher take credit for this. The teacher can only nudge, guide, mentor a little and show you the path. And that can be done to great extent even through the open systems. And let me tell you how it is done. And I've done experiments in this. Think about this carefully. It's hard to change mindsets. We are so supercilious in our attitudes that I'm appalled. But 10 years ago, when things were so much more basic than they are now, I sat with two gifted mathematicians. The three of us sat down. And we devised an introductory lecture in calculus purely on the computer. We brought in interactivity, we brought in a little animation, we brought in deep insights, and a student would be propelled to go through that because there was a lot of good color in every sense of the term in that lesson. And we ran an experiment. We asked 16 of the brightest students at one of Delhi's so-called great schools, all of whom were aspirants for entry into the IIT system in India, who had done all this calculus through their own so-called coaching systems and through the school. We asked the school teachers of that school to devise two identical level tests to test what we believe is good knowledge inside of the calculus. These students took one test just after they had sat for the IIT entrance exam. And the scores were compiled, 16 of them. And then these students took the second test some time after, when their immediate learnings of the IIT had faded a little into the background, but then they went through this lesson entirely by themselves. No teacher was present, nobody was present. And then they took the second test, and each one of them had a score which was much higher than in the previous test. But more importantly, and think about this, each one of the students said, we wish we had been taught like this. They wrote that down. There is great merit in this system. Use a hybrid system and your gross enrollment ratio will go up. Somehow India needs to wake up to this. I'm reminded of this story by Tulsidas, not a story really, it's part of a whole poem that he writes, where a king needs to be someone who, when he takes taxes from the population, should be like the sun taking water from the ocean. No one notices it. But when he gives back benefits, should be like the clouds that come back with all that water, and everybody benefits when they rain on you. Somewhere, let us soak up this knowledge in some way that exists all over the world, create a hybrid model, and use ICT to great effect. I really have nothing more to say. Thank you very much.